Welcome to the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may have missed, with your hosts AJ Kuti and Jason Gordon. What's going on, everyone? We are back. We are Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses the things that schools may not have prepared you for. As always, I'm AJ. Sitting across me, Jason. Jason, how you doing today?
Hanging in there, AJ. It's another great day, right, in paradise.
You know, we recorded 36 of these, which includes the 2 bonus episodes that we've been doing already. And the more I hear our intro, the more I wish that was me playing that guitar riff.
Yeah, well, you should throw down on it.
Right. Maybe get a ukulele and do it.
You can learn that riff. It's not a tough one.
I wish I could say that was me doing this. I wish I could say all that music was us just getting it done, and no, it was definitely not.
Well, we should do it. You can play the guitar. I got some drums over here, so we'll lay down those tracks.
I'd more likely play the drums than that, and you more likely would probably play the guitar.
Well, whatever. We as we progress a little bit, we might get confident and say, you know what, we're going to create our own intro music.
Maybe that's one thing we can do is like one day in the future when we have more than, a couple listeners, we can have live shows, and at the intro, it's just us playing it.
Oh, yeah. We can jam into it. That'd be awesome.
I would lose my mind. Well, today we are talking about going out on college nights. And this is a tips and tricks episode, so this is us giving you tips on how to more or less make the most out of your college nights, how to go through and as we talk about college nights. And we just had a previous episode not too long ago where we talked about parties and hookups and dating. This kind of is an extension of this, or of that topic, where we're talking about how to make the most out of your college nights, but also how to keep yourself safe too. So does that sound good to you?
Absolutely. I like this same vein thing where we're going down the road of, this is supposed to be the fun side of college, right? Mm-hmm. Or the personal development side of college, socially anyway. So yeah, giving tips and tricks on how to make the most of it. I think that'll be helpful to some folks.
That is probably the best way I've ever heard partying is the social development side of it.
Oh, it matters. All of this stuff matters.
I could see you going into an interview and going, yes, I'm a professional at social development. And all that just means you went to a lot of parties.
Well, I talked to my wife and I this morning. We're talking about on the way to school, the status of higher education and stuff. And, I have some negative opinions and some positive opinions there. And we were talking about, the difference as to how you come into higher education and what you look at it as being for you and the starting point versus, that type of thing, the quality of the education that you're receiving versus the expected output and things like that, and how that's changing society and stuff. We kind of, we went down that road of talking about that stuff. So anyway, I'm of the right mindset right now to get into this.
Man, y'all have some interesting conversations. My conversation this morning with my family was, girls, you need to hurry up. It's almost time to leave. You need to hurry up and eat before we go.
That's always part of the conversation too. Get your shoes on. Yeah. Get your water bottle for your book bag.
Yeah,
Get, this, right, checklist of things to get them out the door.
Well, let's get into it then.
All right. Before we do, I got to remind everybody to visit our website, Reschool'd.com. That's Reschool with a D, not an ED. Visit our social media handles. We are Reschool'd Pod on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the good stuff, Instagram. Also, favorite podcasting app. Make sure you follow us or like us so you get notifications when we drop new episodes. Please, 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 if you dig what we're doing, give us that 5-star review, right? That helps us out a ton. And that's it, right? Also, lastly, YouTube. Right? Check out our YouTube channel. We got some good, fun, fast tips that will be helpful to you, right? It's more straight to the point. We don't talk on it as much as we do during the episode type scenario, but I think you'll get something out of that too.
So are you trying to be like hip and I guess they say lit when you say if you dig what we do?
Yeah, man. I gotta use the lingo in, huh? Right? I'm cool. I'm hip. I'm with it.
I'm lit. Keep it 100.
Yeah.
Well,
I would try to back that up by shortening the word, like by just putting dy on the end of it, like everybody does now, right? But I don't even know how to do that yet. It's like learning to speak Pig Latin.
Yeah. I do know how to speak Pig Latin, though. That's funny.
Oh, yeah. So you can... Yeah, see, that was never a cool thing to do, though.
It was not a cool thing when I learned it either. Let's get into the quick question. And today's quick question, because we are dealing with going out with college nights, is What's your best memory of your college nights when you were in college? Give me one best memory.
One best memory?
Yeah, let's just go to one.
It's pretty innocuous, but that first year in college, I lived in a suite of, full of guys. There's about 10 of us to a suite, and it's basically a pod type scenario where the individual rooms are kind of broken off, So anyway, we were a group, right? So I didn't connect with some of them, but a few of us, right? We got pretty tight in terms of friendship and stuff like that. And honestly, the one thing we did as a group that was really, I don't know, that really was just meaningful was, we spent a night just hanging out, talking, order pizza, they were playing video games and mess like that. And we just decided to pile in and ride out to the beach, right? We were only 15 minutes from the beach because, we just, not to name my college, but I went to the College of Charleston, right? So anyway, we, middle of the night, went out to the beach, right? And just hung out, blast the music. Luckily we didn't get arrested and stuff, and we all went swimming in the ocean at night. Didn't get eaten by a shark, luckily, type scenario. But that was just a real bonding experience very early on in college. And because it was one of the first times I'd ever done something like that coming out of high school type scenario, it was just meaningful, and it kind of set the stage for everything that would come. And right, there was a lot of interesting evenings and nights and everything else from then on that we all did together. But that was one of the first things. And so anyway, that one's meaningful, right?
Probably my most meaningful, and I'm going to go a different direction, but I remember, I was in undergrad and I was playing soccer, and a bunch of the soccer guys that I played on the team, we were really good friends with the volleyball girls. And so we hung out a lot with them, and it was a Halloween party. And so we were all hanging out. And you know how every town has that ghost story about you go to the bridge or you go here, you turn your car off, you say the person's name, blah, 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 and something will happen. The folk story for the small town that you're in. Mm-hmm. So we had one of those in my old town, and we were talking about it at the party. And the volleyball girls were all like, that's so cool, we should go do this. It's Halloween night. And I was like, oh yeah, we should definitely go do this. And so ours was, you go to this bridge, you turn your car off, put the keys on your hood, you say the girl's name who was murdered at that place or whatever, and you would, under the bridge, see, I can't remember what it was, but we told them that you would hear how she was murdered, and you could possibly see her ghost. And I was like, oh, we should definitely do this, but you're going to have to give me like an hour. And they were like, all right, cool. And so we stayed around the party. Well, I'd called my friend. I had a good friend of mine who's about 6'3", 6'4", kind of big guy. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to get your buddies and get to this bridge before we get there, set up. And so he said, no problem. And so it was him and a girl and another guy went to the bridge before us. And they had the girl dressed in all white that went with them and completely whited out her face to make it look like a ghost. Cause this was pitch black. You couldn't see anything. And, him and his buddy both got chainsaws, took the chains off of them. So it was just the engine revving. Now there was nothing dangerous about it. It was just the engine running. And they both got at the ends of the bridge, or the other end of the bridge. And so we took the volleyball girls there. We put the keys in the car. We said the girl's name, and nothing happened. And it didn't dawn on me that the bridge we went to was probably a good half a mile long or a quarter mile long. And so it was going to take a minute for my buddies to get there. But they were like, oh, this is so stupid. And we started, messing around and everything. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of their eyes is the girl. You see the girl who's dressed in all white coming out. And they go, oh, what is that? And as soon as one of them said that, he kicked on that chainsaw and started running. And I have never seen people run so fast screaming in my life. And it was the funniest thing I have ever witnessed.
Oh my God, that is the most traumatic thing I've ever heard.
It was awesome. Oh, and they laughed. Man, they had a ball doing it. We all he ended up coming back to the party with us. But I will never, as long as I live, never forget that moment because it was hilarious.
You couldn't do that in my hometown, man. Too many rednecks. Somebody have
rednecks.
A shotgun behind their seat. Like that I mean, they never would have made it out of that alive.
Well, it was funny because even some of the soccer guys that was with us was not in on it. It was me and another guy that were in on it. I told him, hey, so you're going to have to help me with this. And so he knew it, but nobody else knew it. And it was funny because apparently one of the girls on the volleyball team we were out in the middle of nowhere, and they had to pop a squat. They had to use restroom. And it just so happened to be the exact time he kicked on that chainsaw.
Oh, that poor girl.
I was crying. I was laughing so hard. It was the absolute funniest time I have ever witnessed when it comes to pulling a prank on somebody.
Oh man, we got to get into this episode, man. That is that everybody who's listening to this be like, these dudes are crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get into the main topic then. The first question, and this is our tips and tricks. So we're going to end with our tips and tricks to kind of help you through. But just to kind of set the stage, let's go ahead and just define what we mean when we say college nights, going out on college nights. What do you say about that? So,
the idea is we've talked before, there's going to be parties, there's going to be that type of thing. And, what all goes into the parties, the size of the party, alcohol's there, that type of thing. So in college, there's going to be a lot of nights where you do nothing but hang around your dorm room, hang out with friends, do things like go scare people on a bridge or go to the beach and, just hang out and swim at night type scenario, right? A lot of bonding activity and stuff like that to create lifelong friendships. But there's also going to be the partying type nights where you go out, right? Where you are going to some sort of house party, fraternity, sorority party, something like that. So one of the things we want to focus on is how you get the most out of that, how you protect yourself, how you plan for it, that type of thing. So that's kind of what we're focusing on right now, right? We'll probably have another episode later on where we talk about, cementing friendships and how meaningful experiences come in. But right now, I think we're on that whole party fun train of, all right, you're going out. I
will say, let's add one more kind of piece to that, which we didn't really talk about in the previous episode when we talked about parties and hookups and dating. And I would include going to bars in the college nights. Yeah,
that's valid because college nights in a college town type scenario, you don't have to be 21 right yet. So, 18, 19 years old, you can go to these places type scenario and not be depending on your fake ID to do it.
Yeah, so when we talk about our tips, we're talking about any of those. We're talking about whether you're going to a house party, fraternity, sorority party, going to bars, or just kind of having, like you said, a chill night where maybe you go to the beach or whatnot. So let's get into our tips. So I'm going to let you start, Jason. Give me your first one.
Start with, you got to prepare ahead of time. Now, we're going to break down and say, how do you prepare ahead of time and stuff like that? But you got to think through some really important stuff about the night. So the first one in preparing is don't go solo on this one if you can.
Yeah.
Find a friend, find multiple friends, and y'all plan on doing this together, right? And so the whole planning process of what you're going to do, what your expectations for the night, you can express those to others so they understand where you are. Girls, y'all do that all the time in terms of, all right, I got my friends there. They're going to protect me about this, creepy dude that won't leave you alone type scenario. Here's your signal. I'm going to, flick my hair or do whatever that's going to come save me or whatever type scenario. So start with, get your friend, get your posse together, and, y'all plan what you're going to do together, right?
Yeah, your friends can come into they can be very helpful when it comes to parties. One, because they give you that person to rely on. They can also get you out of some crappy situations. They can say, hey, we got to go, and it kind of ends it right there for the other person that you're trying to get away from. Like you said, you have the code. So having a friend, and it's not simply just girls, guys as well. I always went to parties with guys, with friends of mine, because if nothing more, one of us was the DD. One of us, we didn't want to drive drunk if somebody was drinking. So one of us was the DD. Same thing for the girls. Of course, we didn't have Uber back then or Lyft, but that also helped us as well. So it's always just good to have a friend, because they will get you out of trouble and they could possibly get you into trouble.
Yeah.
But they will also get you into, like, maybe you've never met someone and they can also introduce you because they've met that person. So there's a lot of good things that come from having a friend at the party or at the bar or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And, one thing about that, I'm going to, break down the maybe sexist stereotype here, but girls, there's going to be dudes that hit on you, period. It's just going to happen. And having someone there to be the one to come get you and pull you away from it, right, to save you from the scenario, that's going to be your primary right there. Guys, if you're, as in a different episode, AJ and I talked about, it's difficult going out there solo on your own unless you're extremely confident, you've just, you know what you're doing when it comes to relating to other people in a social environment. So having a wingman, right?
Yeah.
We hadn't used that term before, but just having somebody there with you that you can banter back and forth with, it gives you a way to look cool or seem like you have something doing or going on. Because sometimes especially you show up at a bar by yourself, a little creepy, not gonna lie. People kind of label you as that if you're the one just looking around to have a conversation type scenario, or you're trying to edge into other people's conversations type scenario. So going to the bar with somebody that you can hang out with type scenario, like I said, again, they're your wingman, makes it easier to, as a group, as a couple of people, maybe start a conversation with other groups of people type scenario. And it gives you somebody to break away from, again, to go over there and say, hey, now you start a conversation with somebody. So if nothing else, part of your plan for having fun, right? Go with a friend. They can be very useful.
Side note, just from personal experience, the best wingman I've ever had was a girl.
Really?
Having a wingwoman? Oh man, yeah. Oh, good Lord, yes. That was the best assistance I've ever had when it came to being somewhere with a friend and them being able to introduce me into a group or into two different people in a way that they were comfortable with me and I was comfortable with them enough to be able to start up a conversation and just talk. It was never there was never a concern on their side that there was an ulterior motive on my behalf because this other girl came up and introduced me to this person.
Well, that's pretty good advice. I wish I'd known that when I was, coming along. I would have.
Sad, my mom was the one that told me that when I was going through school.
Oh, got it for a second. I thought you said.
No, my mom was not the one.
Was your wing
No.
Be like, AJ, all right, you should have left that one out.
No, my mom was the one that told me that trick, and I was like, that's an awesome trick. I had a really good relationship with my mom and my dad when I was going through, and so
sounds like it.
Yeah. All right, my tip. And this is coming from my accounting background. Okay, so this is just me. But when you go to a bar, if at all possible, it's best to use cash and not your card. So my advice would be use cash when you can. Because when you're using a card, you go up to the bar and say, hey, put it on my tab. You don't have a clue how much you've racked up. You might be $300 down by the end of the night. Because at some point, you've probably had enough, and then you start buying everybody else shots. Whereas if you have the cash, you really start to see how much you have left and you can limit it. So you're almost budgeting yourself from a visual sense because at a certain point in the night, you're not going to be able to do math anyway. So mine would say stick to cash.
That is very good advice. I've been on the negative side of that before, where all of a sudden you get a little bit happy and then you buy a round of drinks and then you didn't realize a round of drinks cost $60.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Type scenario. That is a heart attack when you wake up the next morning and you see. And I wasn't using a credit card; I was using a debit card, which is an even worse idea, right? So that brings me to my next point. So I teach negotiations, right? And part of what I teach in negotiations is people don't always do things logically when you're negotiating. People make decisions based upon affect or emotion. All right. So what the scenario can hit you in a certain way. You can become emotional about it. You can become overly excited about the scenario or the fear of missing out on a deal or something like that. And it will cause you to make decisions to pay more than you would have otherwise, or to jump on something that you think is fleeting, even though it may not be that type of scenario, right? It's tons of things you see in sales tactics, right? Order now versus, or having an emotional experience as part of the advertisement, that type of thing. All of that comes into play. Now, the way you combat that is to go into a negotiation with what we call your resistance or your reservation point, saying in no way, shape, or form, under any scenario, no matter what I learn at this during this negotiation, am I going to pay more than this, or am I going to give more ground than this, or am I going to do this, right? Type scenario. So I prescribe that same approach to going out in college. That is, you state ahead of time that there is no way I'm going to do this. While I'm with it, while I have my logic, while emotion is beyond me, I am not going to do this. I am not going to spend more money than this under any scenario, way, shape, or form. You can use that first tip of having a friend to reinforce that.
I was going to ask that. Is that something that you would talk about with your friend?
Absolutely. That's part of that whole planning thing we were talking about, right? And this is the first point of it, right? You got your friend there. Y'all plan it together. I cannot spend more money than this. I cannot stay out later than this. I cannot drink any more than this. If I start to drink,
I cannot go home with my ex-boyfriend.
That's a big one, right? Do not let me, go along with him or her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do not let me do that type scenario. Do not let me hook up with somebody tonight.
Yeah.
Do not let me that type of thing. And if you set that in your mind, hard stop ahead of time, one, you won't wake up the next morning with regret. You won't have all the negative repercussions that we talk about from that going too far, drinking too much, doing things you otherwise wouldn't have. Because we know, especially when you start to drink or you get emotional in the situation, or as the night rolls on and you get more tired, your inhibitions go down and you start doing things otherwise you would not do or have done. Right? Now, sometimes part of going out is the purpose of doing that. Right? You want to do those things ultimately, and you want to have some reason to say, oh, that wasn't really me. It was the alcohol. It was the whatever. Okay, if that's the case, fine, but plan for it, right? Plan your limits. And if you do, right, then you will avoid some of those negative consequences that you do not want afterwards, right? You do not want that reputation, right? You do not want that. I mean, happens to girls, I think, a lot. Guys do stupid things when they get drunk, making of themselves. Girls end up doing things that stick to their reputation that they're not looking for, right? Because there's still, whether it's fair or not, whether it's sexist or not, it's still there that there's this negative stereotype or association when girls do some of the same things that guys do. And like I say, not prescribing that it's fair, but if that is something that, hey, you do not want to have have a certain label attached to you or something like that comes from situations where you let your inhibitions down and do things you otherwise would not have done, well, protect yourself against it, right? Yep. Plan ahead of time, because everybody knows that does happen when your inhibitions drop due to alcohol, scenario, late night, whatever.
Yeah, I always said, and a bunch of my friends knew this too, that when I would go out after a couple times of realizing what drinking too much, how I felt and how crappy I felt, I always said that if I turned real quick and then everything slowly came into focus after I turned, that was too much. I'm done. I'm cutting myself off there.
That's smart. Yeah. I mean, you were smart enough to do it ahead of time. Again, I'm not sure I followed my own advice and set my reservation points ahead of time. It was just, I avoided the scenario up front, because usually by just not even going, right? Type scenario.
Well, you didn't have the beauty of this podcast to help you out. So.
There you go, right? I didn't have AJ Kuti giving me the tips of life.
I don't know if you want to take mine. My next one, and it kind of goes still with the same point about the I'll still stick with the kind of the cash part and still stick with the financial side of it too. And my tip is actually twofold. So there's two parts to this. But I want to say, know what you're getting from the drinks that you ordered. And the reason I say there's two parts is, one, you need to know obviously what drink you're getting if you're going to order a drink, because some of them are going to hit you harder than others. But at the same time, from a bar's perspective, there's ways that they could increase profits by lowering the costs by possibly diluting a drink, or heaven forbid if they have Jell-O shots on the menu. I mean, Jell-O shots you're just paying for Jell-O with the smell of alcohol in it. So I would say really look at the drinks that you're going to get, because sometimes even if you say top shelf, it may not be top shelf. It could be drinks that are poured in the top shelf bottle. A lot of times, and I won't say a lot of times because I don't want to stereotype all bartenders, but sometimes if you order a drink and they pull a straw out of a glass that has what you think is maybe water in it, potentially could be like vodka, and they put their finger over the top of it to take a little bit of the vodka in there, put it into the drink that you ordered, and so that way the first sip you have out of that glass is just nothing but liquor, so you think it's very, very strong, and you're more likely to tip them. There's a lot of things that they can do that will give you the illusion that it is better, but may not. And also, too, how you order them. I mean, if you say make it strong, then that just to them implies, hey, give me extra liquor without me having to pay for it. I mean, you do. This is a business. These are people that are trying to make money as a bartender, so you do have to understand what they're going through. So when you're trying to sneak past and trying to get more liquor without having to pay for it, you're probably not going. It's not probably not going to do anything. It's actually probably going to have the adverse effect. They're probably going to laugh at you and probably give you less liquor. So know what you're getting from the drinks, and then also to make sure that make sure that you're the one that's ordering your drinks. Don't let somebody else order it for you.
I was about to say that cuts both ways, right?
Yep.
You get what you want out of the drink, but don't get things you don't want out of the drink.
Exactly.
Right. Somebody doubling a shot on you to try to get you drunk. Somebody, everybody's heard of roofing or whatever, or putting some date rape drug in a drink, and that type of thing. So that kind of stuff does happen, right? I've actually seen a case myself where GHB was put into somebody's drink, and they didn't drink enough of the drink for it to fully knock them out, but it had a ton of the effect, right? It made them disoriented. It made them sick. And, GHB, right, is the traditional gamma hydroxybutyrate. It is the traditional date rape drug, but it will kill you, right?
Yeah.
It is a very, very dangerous thing, a situation. It's used recreationally as well as for those nefarious purposes, right? But anyway, point being is protect yourself. Don't let other people do things to your drink that could, again, hurt you.
Yeah, I guess that would be a good kind of sub tip for the one that I was just talking about. Is not only do you want to know what you're getting from your drink, but you also want to make sure you know what's in your drink. So protect your drink. Keep it with you at all times. Don't just sit it around and not look at it. And obviously, we say these things because in an ideal world, we would never have to worry about that. And I think that's the part. The hardest part is some of you may, when we say that about holding your drink and not taking your eyes off of it, some of you may going, I shouldn't have to do that. And you're 100% correct. You should not have to do that. But the reality is there are awful people out there, and you have to protect yourself from them. So I would say that would be a good tip to go along with mine would be to protect your drinks.
Yeah. Just because something shouldn't be that way, there shouldn't be stereotypes, there shouldn't be judgment, there shouldn't be people out there to try to take advantage of you. But in reality, it's there, right? And, we are social creatures that react to other people and their perceptions and stuff. So we have to account for it. If it matters to us, love to say it shouldn't matter, so don't worry about it. But honestly, it's not that easy. So prepare, protect yourself. That's primary things there.
All right, give us another one.
All right. Here's another one that will protect you. Make sure that everything you do meets your standard of, if it were recorded, you would not feel ashamed or embarrassed or regret it. So assume that everything you do, and this could be true, will be recorded. Because God knows everybody has a camera in their pocket now, right? Yeah. Every smartphone out there has pretty high quality recording. So assume that what you do is going to be recorded. If you do, even in a drunken state or even in a drunken stupor, if you haven't planned things out well enough and you can't avoid that, or you don't have a friend there to cut you off or whatever, if you keep it in your mind that I'm never going to live this down, right? It is always going to be there. People are going to bring it up. If it's pretty innocuous, it might show up at my wedding. If it's not, it might show up on a nefarious website, right?
Yeah.
type scenario, which honestly, I have seen that too, which is a sad state of affair where somebody was recorded surreptitiously and
Surreptitious? I can't even spell that.
yeah, but and then it was put on pornographic channels,
Oh my goodness.
right? Because it was one of these guys who was exploiting his conquests, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, that being said, yeah, believe that everything you do is or could be recorded.
Yep. My next tip, this is more kind of on brand with me, and this is just something. I mean, it is something can be difficult to overcome if you have that kind of shy personality, if you will. But I'm always a big fan of have fun at these parties. I mean, that's why you go to these things, is to have fun at them. But when I say have fun, it's not just in the sense of drinking or like, to me, a lot of the fun of parties was just to participate in the party. So for instance, if there was a costume party, dress up as a costume. Like, I didn't have a problem dressing up in costumes, and I didn't care how stupid it made me look. I didn't care how many people laughed at me. I kind of was actually probably going for that more times than none, but it was just a lot of fun because you became part of the crowd that was the party was created by. You took part in it, and that was something that was just a ton of fun. Have you ever heard of an ABC party?
ABC, no.
No. So ABC parties ABC stands for anything but clothes.
Oh,
so you go to the party wearing anything but clothes. And granted, you wear undergarments and stuff, but all of the outer is, you've got to make it out of something, whether it's made out of, you can make it out, essentially you could, if you wanted to, make a toga because that you're making it out of a sheet, or you can use really anything. You can use boxes as clothes, but man, that was probably one of the funnest parties I've ever been to.
That sounds like a lot of fun. No,
because it's just creativity.
Yeah, that sounds like a time, right? I mean, you're spreading Halloween through every part of the year.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I love, I mean, themed parties are fun because, again, you have that extra element. Naturally, the party in itself is fun, but the theme side of it, you get to see kind of how creative other people are, how far out there they go. Of course, I did that in high school when we had, do you remember having like homecoming week where you had different themes?
Uh-huh.
I love doing those. Those are fun to me.
Yeah, those are great. I mean, ability to just kind of, I don't know, get outside of yourself and do something fun.
I will say I got kicked out. I got sent home from high school because of my costume.
Really?
1 year. Yes, because I was just that carefree. I didn't care. And the theme for that day was, I think it was like cartoons. I want to say it was like cartoons or something like that. So you had to dress up like a cartoon character.
Uh-huh.
And I loved the Rugrats. Rugrats was one of my favorite shows when I was growing up. And I dressed like Tommy Pickles. And it was Tommy Pickles had a diaper on and a shirt that just came up a little too high. And so I made a bed sheet into a diaper. So it's this big, blousy kind of diaper looking thing. But it was kind of high up on my legs. And I remember getting called into my principal's office and they're like, "What you got on under that diaper?" And I was like, "I got some underwear on. That's about it." And he goes, "You need to go home and change." I was like, "Oh, okay. Found me."
You took it a little too far, huh?
I took it a little too far. But I'm going to have fun with those kind of things. And I think it just adds to the value of your experience. Even if you're that shy person, it brings you out of that comfort zone and you could probably get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds, like I said, it spreads that fun of Halloween throughout the year. But you know what they say about Halloween, though? It's an opportunity for girls to dress sexy and boys to dress like girls. So
that's true, yes.
Yeah, that is pretty much what Halloween is.
I've dressed like a French maid a couple times.
That's a good one, man. So on top of having fun, right? We went from protecting yourself and doing all that kind of stuff. So, you can have fun because that's the important part, right?
Yep.
You're doing this to have fun, doing it in a responsible way, just like drinking, right? You prepare for it, doing it in a responsible way. No harm in it usually, unless there's some negative health thing with you or whatever. But that being said, but then also the aspect that you are still in college, right? The objective of college, other than developing as a person, is to learn things. Okay. So Study ahead of time.
Yeah.
Don't paint yourself in a corner that says, you choose between studying and going out. I saw that all the time, right?
Yeah. I did that all the time.
Well, yeah. So you were that guy. See, I was the guy who studied ahead of time. I could have gone out anytime I wanted to because I had already studied for everything, right? I barely had to study for exams because I studied for classes, right? So make sure I knew it going forward and stuff like that. I'm not saying being that anal about it because, my personality caused me to not enjoy a lot of things. But that being said, if you prepare ahead of time, you study for your classes, you get ahead of things, then the decision to go out on a college night is just that. Do I want to go out and have fun or do I not? It's not a trade-off between am I doing my primary responsibility of preparing for my classes so that I do well there, or do I go out and do the social aspect, which is the primary, secondary developmental element of college.
Yeah, I wish I'd have learned that back in college, where if you just studied early, you wouldn't have to worry about it later on. Because I was the one that was like, I can't go to the party because I got to study. And then I would go, you know what? I'll be fine. I'll pull an all-nighter.
Yeah.
That was bad.
And, well, you were lucky you didn't drink because I can tell you studying while you have drank or while you are intoxicated does not work.
No, I can imagine that, yeah.
It does not work. That is not a fruitful experience.
Well, my last tip is an extension of that. And that is make sure you have nothing major planned the following morning if you are going to drink.
Oh, particularly if you're going to drink. You're going to have to sleep in and when you wake up, you are not going to feel your ready best.
Yeah, I would say too, even in the planning side, this goes way back before even the week that you're going to go out, but even to the beginning of the summer. Make sure you know when college night is. I mean, most campuses, college nights are Thursday night. And if that's the case, try not to have any classes planned on Friday. I mean, that would save you a lot of grief because if you can get all your classes in on Monday through Thursday, then you have Thursday night to go out and then you have Friday to recover.
Yeah. And then you got the weekend to, like I say,
do it again.
Detox and do some exercise and, drink plenty of liquids, right? Rehydrate and be ready for the next week.
Yeah, I had a buddy of mine tell me most maybe prophetic thing about drinking I've ever heard. He said, you can't have a hangover if you never stop drinking.
Like, yeah, but you can die.
You can die.
There's a blood alcohol content where you will not recover from that.
Yeah, absolutely on that one.
So, and unless you're planning on going to the hospital and hooking up an IV and sleeping through it, honestly, you don't want to have a hangover, drink too much, go to the hospital, get an IV, and breathe in pure oxygen so you over-oxygenate. When you wake up, you'll feel like $100 million again.
Well, maybe that'll be the last tip we bring out is if you are going to go drink, make sure you drink water at the end of the night.
No, yeah. I thought you were going to say have a hyperbaric chamber and
not have a
nurse
I don't think,
ready to hook you up to an IV.
I have seen that before, but the nursing students love that. They get to practice the IV on you. But yeah, drink some water right before you go. I've always said drink a glass of water before you go to sleep. At least get that water back into you so you're not as dehydrated in the morning because that's typically where your hangover comes from.
Oh yeah, and I always had the routine of taking a couple of ibuprofen and a big cup of water and pounding it. But I will tell you this, if you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night where you have to go to the bathroom, go and try to drain your bladder ahead of time.
Yeah,
right? Because otherwise, you pound that whole big glass of water, and I'm talking about a whole Bubba mug full of water, right? You are going to have to wake up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, and it is not going to be great. You are not going to feel awesome rolling out of that bed. And if you're unlucky enough to be too intoxicated to wake up, then you got something to clean up in the morning.
Have you ever heard that thing about the if the room is spinning, take one leg and put it off the bed and put it on the floor?
No.
Somebody told me it does not work. I can tell you it does not work at all. So,
oh yeah.
Go ahead.
And do your roommate a favor. I remember in college, I woke up one night and my roommate had stumbled in drunk. We had bunk beds at that time. Ooh. I'm on top bunk. I'm like, God, there he is. He's drunk, making all that racket, Middle of the night. Yeah. He stumbles out of bed and I wake up. I'm like, what's going on here? he can't figure out where the door is in the room.
Oh God, yes.
And we had these metal cabinets, right? So he's like
Mhm.
trying to push on the metal cabinet to move it. And I'm like, hey, his name was Steve. I'm like, hey, Steve, what are you doing? He was too drunk to wake up. He about faces and proceeds to urinate in his laundry basket. Yeah, right.
Did you let him do it though?
Oh yeah, I was sitting
Okay,
there. I'm
good.
like, I just sitting up, like starting to giggle, like because he is filling up his
awesome.
laundry basket, and then he just kind of plops back in bed. I'm like, all right, well,
You're
that's
gonna feel that one in the morning.
Yeah, so I go back to sleep. Nothing I can do with that scenario, except for in the morning when I wake up, I'm making sure there's no pee trail, in front of the door or whatever, so I can get out of there. But the next morning, I'm like, he gets up and he's like, God, this room smells like this. I'm like, yeah, it does.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I'm like, yeah, you know what you did last night. Sure
That
enough,
is awesome.
Yeah, so he filled up his laundry basket. That was awesome.
I don't feel so bad about us scaring the volleyball girls no more.
No.
You just let yours pee in the laundry basket.
I know. And if I had a cell phone, that would still be out there because I would have recorded every minute of it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I would have forwarded that one to everybody too.
Well, before we end today, I was kind of tossing up between two questions for the quick question, and I think we were going to have more fun with the best memory. But I do have almost a secondary quick question. I want to kind of get your idea on this. Is kind of the graded question. I've said this before in a previous podcast of this thought of I'd much rather regret what I did than regret what I didn't do. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that a lot on college nights as a way to justify them doing a stupid decision or making a stupid decision to do something so that way that they don't regret or always wonder in the back of their mind, what if I would have done that because I chose not to? So with that in mind, how would you grade the truth behind that statement? Like, how much do you agree with it or how much do you not? Grade it for us.
To a certain extent, it's completely true. I would say, it's 90% true. But the thing is, it's one of degree, right?
Yep.
So there are things you can regret that you will never live down, that will have lasting repercussions mentally, legally, right? That type of thing. So, that anyone, I think most people would spend the rest of their life saying, I hate that I missed the most fun night I could have ever had because it's one night, rather than hurt somebody, right? Rather than getting a car wreck and hurt somebody, or rather than something less serious but still very bad, getting a DUI and what that means and what it costs, whether it's losing your scholarships, getting kicked out of college, losing your license, putting your family in financial strain or something like that. So there is potential that, okay, you do something, right? You didn't want to miss out on the opportunity, how fun that could have been, but the repercussions can be untenable, right? It's just, there is no balancing that. So, but do you want to spend all your life regretting things that you didn't do? And as long as it's things that aren't going to have that lasting repercussion, then sure, right? Maybe going on that trip, maybe hanging out just a little bit longer, maybe spending the time talking with someone that you otherwise wouldn't have talked to them, maybe whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that you say, I don't want to miss this opportunity, right? Because it'll be something I look back on and remember, and nobody got hurt. Yeah.
So you would say probably what, a B?
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
I would say that too. And we're gonna have a future episode coming up. I know we've got it on the docs already, but dealing with opportunity costs, and I think that really boils down to when you make these decisions. Because if the opportunity cost, like you said, if it's not doesn't have a long-term lasting effect on if you were to do it, it could have a very short-term impact that you may regret if you did do it. But some of these decisions that you make, you may always think, well, what if I would have done that? Like it could have, where would I be, or what would I have experienced, or something like that, had I done that, assuming that the long-term effect of you not doing it is greater. So you're really looking at the opportunity cost. Like you said, you don't want to drink and drive, but if it's talking about doing something that maybe it's something as stupid or as immature as like playing a game at one of these there's lots of drinking games out there, but like playing one of these games, you're like, I'm not going to do that. I'm too mature for that. I've never once in my life said I'm too mature for something, because that's kind of what leads to a lot of times they have fun. So just look at the repercussions of it. But I kind of feel like that statement is fairly true if you take out all of the ones that have the legal repercussions or the physical repercussions potentially. So
yeah, if you take out all of that,
yeah.
right? The idea that I could get arrested,
yeah.
I could really hurt somebody else, I could, that type, or be hurt myself. Yeah, you take away that, it's 100% true. I mean, it is worth sacrificing like crazy to have some of the things that or to do some of the things that you otherwise would regret, as long as, like I say, there's no that lasting repercussion.
Well, very cool. I love this. I love these fun-loving kind of topics that we talk about. The ability to laugh at some of these is just, I know we get deep in some of our topics sometimes, but when we have these ones that we can just joke and have fun and talk about our experience of the stupidities that we've gone through when we were in college, I love these episodes.
Yeah, these are the best. Yeah. A little bit of nostalgia, right? Looking back.
And it just, I mean, because these past weeks of me being in as a student going back to school and everything has been super stressful. So be able to, it really does brighten up your day. To be able to kind of, like you said, reminisce about these old times and things that we've done and everything, and be able to laugh and have fun.
I know, it inspires me too. It's like a country song, man.
Oh, yeah. I could tell you all this stuff that we're saying about having fun college nights and doing when you're in your mid to late 30s and you go back to school does not happen anymore.
Oh no, there's this, and then you just got the memories, right?
Exactly.
Looking back on the memories of.
That's a good song.
That's a great one. I've drawn back on that as motivation for writing songs so many times.
Well, that's been a good show. Jason, do you have anything to say before we leave?
Well, just to remind everybody, again, shoot us a message, contact us, reach out to us, communicate with us, make it a regular thing, right? We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking about. If you like our stuff, let us know about it. Something good happened with you, let us know about that too. We'll take it. We'll run with it. We'll talk about the things you care about, because we are here for you.
Awesome. Well, everyone, until next time, we hope to see you then. Goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Reschool'd podcast. Be sure to head over to reschool'd.com for news and other information on things we're getting into.